Bonjour, hello, I'm Celine Schillinger, founder of We Need Social, advising professionals and organizations with engagement leadership. And here's my take on engagement leadership and digital communities these days that I shared recently in a webinar with Gert Leonard and Didier Marlier. One thing I'd like to stress right away is that switching to remote digital work, like most of us have done recently, is only a part of the transformation work. Much more is needed to reinvent interactions at work, control, innovation, and leadership. And for this, impactful digital communities are essential. Now, for a long time, there has been a misleading narrative around leadership or even around change. This misleading narrative cultivates the idea of a superior, visionary, decisive, followership generating lone agent standing above others due to his or her personal character traits, most often his, by the way. And we know that this narrative is false. This great man theory isn't helping, and yet as societies we keep falling for this leadership stereotype. In fact, in the complex adaptive systems we live in, characterized by entanglement, and that's a reference here to Dave Snowden, in the living systems we are part of as citizens, as workers, and so on, and that's a reference here to Fritjof Capra, no person or leader alone can solve problems beyond a minimal level of complicatedness. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And work, according to our regretted Esko Kilpi, is increasingly understood as interactions rather than job, and even leadership is contextual and relational. And we are all parts of multiple networks. Through John Husband's seminal work on hierarchy and its application in frameworks such as John Cotter's dual operating network model, or through experiments in self-management, practice and thought leadership has greatly evolved over the last 20 years, the way we think about organizations and leadership. And at the same time, technology revolutions have enabled a greater interconnection of the world, as we all know. Networks shape the way we think, we behave, we vote, we consume, and leadership takes place in this context. Now, over a long period of time, organizations have considered large numbers as audiences. The flow of information was mostly unidirectional, from company leadership to employees, from companies to consumers, from elected leaders to citizens, from top to bottom. An audience is a passive target that must be entertained or convinced. Okay, but today there is a shift in words, at least, maybe not in action, but there's a shift from audience to communities. It's a shift from audience to co-creators, from passive to active. Modern leaders pull communities together, not around them though, okay? They are catalysts for connection, for new points of coherence, for new meaning. It's leadership by convening. And throughout the work I've been involved in over the last 10 years, I've seen in the most successful communities the following patterns at play. Instead of pushing a message, they pull people together. They do not target brains only, but hearts, souls, sense of purpose. They go beyond messaging and create a space for action. They truly consider people as co-creators, as participants, as active participants. They do not segment, but bridge and connect. They expand sense-making from experts and executives to everyone. They open up perspectives, and they release control and make more space for freedom, because that's a great enabler. And I use those design principles myself in the vaccine industry, in the airline industry, and more, in several successful communities, and you can find more information about that on my website, weneedsocial.com. Now, what does COVID change to this? I believe it challenges a lot of things. How we work together, how we build bonding and trust. And in this context, strong and impactful digital communities are even more necessary than before, I would say. But they're also more difficult to engage because we are all remote and often stressed and overloaded, right? So everything I said before about successful communities remains valid and important. Now, what else can we do? I believe there's three simple things. The first thing is systemic leadership. Adapt your intervention to the principles of complex adaptive systems. I wrote a post about it recently that you can find on my website. It's called Goodbye Old World. So again, weneedsocial.com is the place you can find it. Second thing is digital diversity. Leverage a broader range of digital tools. Going digital is not just doing Zoom calls. It's about it's time to use asynchronous channels or wikis or etc. for what they can do, which is a lot. Okay, so take this opportunity to reinvent conversations really. And the third thing is, I would say, is pay attention to the quality of your presence. Now, it's not just about being there or cheerleading anymore. It's about injecting a lot of life in a system that is being cut off by physical distancing. The way you show up as a contributor to the community matters more than ever. Okay, so now I would be really happy to hear from you. How do you do to maintain your community alive, to engage it even further? And how do you dance with complexity? Let me know. Get in touch.